In this video, we'll be discussing the main application that we'll be building to cover the concept of ReactJS. So this application will cover everything. It will cover how to write functional or class-based components, how to use states to manage your data, how to use a CRUD endpoints to basically show your data in the front end, and basically also cover navigation as well to navigate in a single page application. We'll also be covering the concepts of unit testing, which is very important when you're writing production ready code to basically test that your code works as it should. So let's just jump right into it and show the app that we'll be building. So the application that we'll be building is basically a note-taking app. I just named it Noted, and I'm using the boilerplate that I'll be providing in this video. And I encourage that you use the boilerplate for anything that you would, any kind of application that you would want to deploy in production as well, because this boilerplate, it covers everything. It covers how to structure your folder properly, and to make it more scalable, it has the navigation built into it. It also has the testing frameworks as well. So the application that we're building, as I said, is a note application where you can edit notes, and this is fetching from Firebase database. So I'll also be covering how to set up your Firebase database as well. And you can delete the notes. You can also add new notes. So this is a new note, and save it, and it will just take you to the page, and this is the new node that you've written. You can also delete them. So yeah, it's a basic CRUD application which covers create, remove, update, delete. And it also has navigation, as you've noticed that it has the node specific URL. So moving on, this is the boilerplate that we'll be using. This is a boilerplate that I've created that I think that it's pretty handy for deploying production-ready application. It has a folder structure overview. We have the test folders and test files, and yeah. So let's just clone this into my computer using git clone. And let's also give it a name, that since we're going to be making the application Noted, so I'm just going to be writing Noted. So after I've cloned the project, let's open it in our VS Code editor. So in my VS Code, I've opened the project called Latte in the name of Noted, and we'll see the folder structure right about now. So we have a components folder where we have some basic components like header. These are the components that you would use, that you can reuse in many parts of the application. We have a pages folder where we would have the actual pages that we can route or navigate towards. So we have first the home page, and we'll be working on that initially. So first, let's look at the app.jsx file. So in the app.jsx file, as you can see, there's some unknown snippet of code that you may have noticed. So we have called the header component, which, like I've said, is a reusable component that we can use throughout all our other components. And we have added a react.fragment. Now, this might be something that you've seen for the first time, but if we replace this with a div, that works as well. So React fragment is used to basically group JSX elements together. If you don't want to use a div, then you would usually use a react.fragment, because div usually means it will have a display blocked by default, or you would usually follow it with a class name. But if you don't need any sort of class name to a snippet of code, you use or you don't have any kind of additional styling needed in a snippet of code, then you would use react.fragment. So after that, we have a header component that we're calling, which will basically render the header. And we have a snippet of code that says browser router. Now, browser router is basically our React navigation module. So if you want to have a single page application with multiple routes, this is what you would write in the code to basically move towards a different route. So the browser router is followed by a switch block, and then in the switch block we have the route. So route is where you define the component that you will render when you go through a certain URL. In this case, this is the home page, so that means in the root in the first page or in the root route, you will basically render the home component. So how would you declare other different routes? You would simply just do the same and then define maybe an about page and then create an about component that will be rendered. Since we don't have such a component, we won't be rendering anything for now, and we will just be redirected to the home page. So if you want to find more information regarding React Router DOM, just check out their official documentation, which will have a basic example. So as you can see, it has done the same thing. We have browser router. They have just given an alias to it, which is browser router imported as router. So this is the root. This is the root wrapper. And then after that, we have the switch wrapper, which basically has the routes declared. And if you want to go to these routes, you basically have to have a link component declare imported from the React Router DOM. And this would, if once you click here, this will basically take you to the component that has been declared in that route. All right, so we're done with the app.jsx, and let's look at some of the other basic folder structure here. We have a config file, which basically has our URL configs or any kind of common configurations that we would want to hold. And we have the index.jsx that we usually have in any sort of React boilerplates. We have we have a services folder where we would list all of our API and REST API endpoints. In this case, I have given a placeholder endpoint. We have a utils folder where we have a utility function, and this utility function just basically helps you to authorize a URL. So basically, if you want to stop someone from going through a particular route, you can basically stop the person here by giving an error message called unauthorized, and then you can redirect to a different endpoint, different page in case that page is supposed to be private. We have test folders where we have some test helpers. This will help you get started with writing unit tests. And we have finally an assets folder where we can store various kinds of images, videos, icons, fonts that would be required for your app. All right, so let's just run the app and see how it looks. So we'll basically have to um, use yarn to run all of our packages, to resolve all of our packages. Once that's done, let's just run the app using yarn start, and then our app should be up in localhost 8080. So this is how the app looks like. We have a standard boilerplate, and then we have whatever is we have declared in the home page, in the home component has been rendered here. In the next video, we'll be setting up Firebase where we can fetch our data from, or even create new data to.